So this is the process for abdominal compression. You'll see that I've mapped out where the rib cage is and then the flow to go. Assess the depth of pressure based off of your client. You can follow, I often look at Kelly's face just in receptivity on how deep I'm going. It isn't a light touch, I'll be honest, and you'll see that I use a compressive force. So again, this is where engagement and conversation is really important. I also time it with his breath. So as he does a deep breath, then I will follow into the abdomen with compression. So at this point, then we'll show you it's an M movement and I have things laid out. He also has his knees up. So that way it helps when I do the abdominal compression. It's not such a compressive force. So he does have his knees up.
Relaxes the abdomen.
Yeah, it relaxes his abdomen. And then, like I said, so that allows you to get into the tissue deeper. And then with his breath and timing it allows us to go in. So we'll look down now at his abdomen. And you'll see I've laid it out. The belly button is the first place to start. And then the second place I move to is number 2. You'll see the arrow towards the belly button. You'll see that that's the compressive direction that I take. And then I move to spot number 3. And then after spot 3 is treated, I'll go back to 2, 1, and then up to 4, down to 5, back to 4, to 1. So you kind of get this M shape. You'll see this big oval here, and after a while we adapted that this becomes also a place that I will do. It was not a part of the original treatment process, but I did find that he does get benefit from it. So I will come in either as I'm going through the flow or at the end, and also make sure that I do a compressive force. And you'll see at the end I kind of let go of the M and do everything in terms of just trying to free up the tissue in the abdomen. This red mark here indicates where his rib cage is, so I want to make sure I stay clear of that. Sometimes you can have fascial restriction here, so it may be tight, but I want to stay clear of that. So here we're going to start with we'll start with number 1, and I'll make sure that Kelly takes a deep breath, and on his out breath, then I am going to compress the tissue. I'm going to gauge his face to see how my compressive force is for him. I'm going to figure out where I am in a relationship in number 2 with that rib cage, staying clear of it. And again, I'm kind of going down in and pushing towards the belly button. I come out of it. I move to number 3. I follow his breath, kind of a down and in towards that belly button.
The shoulder breath.
Back here. Doesn't really matter in terms of the position of my hands. What's important is kind of getting into that tissue and moving it towards the belly button. And then while we're back to the center here, Jake's going to pan up to Kelly's face so you can kind of get the breath. That breath is a deep breath. It's not a shallow breath. It's a thoughtful breath. It's kind of that mindfulness breath of a deep breath in and a nice, slow, steady breath out. I'm up to compressive point number 4, pulling it towards the belly button, and now I'm to compressive point number 5. So you'll see I remain on the same side of the table. We did this for years on our bed. Now that I have a massage table and I can move around, now I move to the other side of the table to get a better position. But if you don't have the capability of that, that's fine. Like I said, we did this for years in our bed, and you adapt to it. So as you can see, I'm just working around the M here. And I'll do this normally in a cycle of at least five complete cycles. It doesn't matter if you start with the left side or the right side. It's whatever you and the person that you're working with is comfortable with. It's just making sure that you do, full complete cycles. If you end up at the wrong spot or you do the same spot twice, that's okay. Sometimes, as you saw there, I went to number 1, skipped number 2, and I caught myself and just went back. Staying clear of that hip bone. Definitely no bony structures within this, given the type of force that we're using. And then this can be a little challenging with their legs up, but you still want their legs up when you come to this spot. You're still following the breath pattern. And again, it's just in and pushing towards that belly button. And then you can also come here and do a compression towards, just make sure you stay clear of the xiphoid process here at the bottom of the sternum. You'll find you get less, sometimes you get less movement in the tissues here. It can be more restrictive. When I've done a complete cycle with him, then what I do is I come in and I basically loosen up the tissue. I'm still following his breath cycle. So on his exhale, I will come in and almost like you're kneading dough. And again, this isn't a gentle process that someone who's used to administering MLD would do. So I wait for that breath and then I come in and I'm really just, again, it kind of has that feeling of working dough out. And I stay connected with him. I check to make sure that through his face and his eyes, he'll let me know whether or not I'm too rough with him or if something's tender and tight and I need to kind of back out a little bit. And then I also come in and I do vigorous. Oftentimes he comments that the vigorous movements itself actually does more than the M-shaped structure that we do. Again, I'll pause and wait for him to catch his breath. And then I'll come back in and I do really kind of all around, like as if you're trying to spread that dough out. And that's the process that we go through in order to do abdominal MLD. Again, you're doing this M shape. It doesn't matter if you start in the center and work out this way, work the M backwards. This is just the process that we have become used to and we follow, so that's how we convey it. But you can certainly start up in the left quadrant and work down and then back up. It's just remembering that you have an M shape here, and then you can fill in this bottom when you kind of go into that dough movement.
Right. The dough movement for me, I think, is ever since we learned it in 2010, is probably like, I think, one of the most beneficial of breaking stuff up. And so when she does that, the vigorous of it really helps a lot with what's going on. So, okay.